What would happen if the Empire's weakest hunter carried the instincts of a soldier who had already conquered death? Lu had died once protecting a comrade, so a frozen frontier and a brutal empire could no longer frighten him. Before his enemies understood what had awakened inside that starving body, the northern border was already changing. In his previous life, Lu had been an elite special forces soldier hardened by years of combat. His final memory was the crack of a gunshot and the body of his comrade standing behind him. He took the bullet without hesitation, fell on the border, and expected darkness to last forever. Instead, Lu opened his eyes beneath a leaking roof in a world he had never seen before. The memories inside his new body told him this ancient land was the kingdom of Dew. By an absurd twist of fate, the dead hunter whose body he inherited was also named Lu. The new Lu lived in Quishan village near Wan, one of the roughest towns on the northern frontier. Criminals, exiles, soldiers, and desperate farmers had been thrown together in this forgotten corner of the empire. Laws existed on paper, but out here, hunger and strength decided who received justice. Most ordinary men would have called Wan a nightmare. Lu felt strangely at home. Before he could fully organize the dead hunter's memories, soldiers barged through his door and dragged him outside. They announced that the emperor was distributing criminal women as wives to unmarried frontier men. The policy sounded generous until Lu learned the price hidden behind it. Every selected woman had to bear a child within 1 year. If she failed, both husband and wife would lose their status and become slaves. Slaves in Wan were treated worse than livestock. They performed the hardest labor, ate the worst food, and received no protection from anyone. When enemy cavalry crossed the border, those same slaves were pushed forward as disposable human shields. Suddenly, choosing a wife was not a romantic decision. It was a matter of survival. The unmarried men gathered around a platform in the market square and studied the women with desperate eyes. Most rushed toward broad-shouldered women with strong legs and sturdy bodies. Beauty meant little when 1 year without a child could destroy an entire household. Even older women were chosen quickly because the men believed strength meant a better chance of childbirth. Then Lu noticed the only woman almost everyone avoided. Her fair skin made her stand out among the weathered frontier prisoners. Her face was delicate, and her long hair had been tied into a simple high ponytail. She was beautiful enough to remind Lu of a university beauty from his previous life. Yet her thin body made the frontier men shake their heads. They saw weakness. Lu saw something else. Even while men mocked her openly, the young woman refused to bow her head. Shame burned across her face, but not a single tear fell. There was pride in her eyes. It was the stubborn kind of pride Lu had seen in soldiers who refused to break under interrogation. His neighbor Wu Pong laughed and dared him to choose her. The fool even promised 100 copper coins as a wedding gift if Lu accepted the challenge. Other men joined the joke and shouted their own insults. The woman heard everything. Her fingers tightened beneath her sleeves, but she continued staring into the distance. Then her eyes met Lu's. For one brief moment, surprise crossed her face. Whatever she saw in him was clearly different from the hunger, greed, and contempt surrounding the platform. Commander Zhao Taishan grew impatient and told Lu to choose a sturdier woman. Lu stepped forward. He pointed directly at the girl everyone had rejected. He wanted her. The laughter stopped for half a heartbeat before the entire market exploded with mockery. Lu ignored every voice. He had spent his previous life trusting his instincts under gunfire. Those instincts told him this woman was worth more than the crowd understood. Her name was Sang Yushi. On the walk home, Yushi secretly watched her strange new husband. One moment Lu protected her with the cold confidence of a veteran. The next moment he cursed like a frontier thug and laughed at his own jokes. She could not understand what kind of man she had married. Lu, meanwhile, was enjoying the absurdity of his second life. In his old-world military service had consumed nearly every year of his youth. Romance had never been his specialty. His comrades once dragged him to a dance where he stepped so hard on a woman's foot that the evening ended immediately. Now he had skipped dating entirely and somehow returned from death with a legal wife. The thought amused him enough to make him hum a song from his previous world. The song promised that a good man would never allow his woman to be hurt. When Lu looked down, Yushi had tears in her eyes. For one horrifying second, he wondered whether his singing was truly that terrible. Yushi quietly asked whether he had written the song himself. Lu claimed the tune had simply appeared in his head. She smiled. A little of the fear in her shoulders finally disappeared. Before long, she was leaning lightly against his arm. Then Lu stopped at a shop and purchased the strongest liquor he could find. The warmth vanished from Yushi's face. She had heard stories about frontier husbands who drank themselves senseless and beat the women given to them. Lu noticed the fear immediately. He felt guilty, but the alcohol was not for drinking. He spent nearly all the wedding money on garlic, salt, sugar, wild fruit millet, a clay pot, and a sharp knife. By the time they reached his house, Yushi looked more confused than ever. Calling the building a house was generous. Broken boards formed the walls, cold winds slipped through every gap, and dried grass served as a bed. Lu owned one usable piece of cloth. He spread it across the straw for Yushi. Then he noticed her staring at the flatbread on the table. Hunger filled her eyes, but she was too well-mannered to touch it without permission. Lu told her to eat. Yushi carefully broke the bread in half. She pushed the larger portion toward him because she believed her husband had worked harder. Lu froze. In 2 lifetimes, almost nobody had ever worried about whether he had eaten enough. He swallowed his share in several bites. Only then did Yushi finally allow herself to eat. The delicate woman devoured the bread so quickly that loose strands of hair fell into her mouth. She did not even notice. Lu realized she had probably been starving for days. When she formally introduced herself as Sang Yushi, he told her she could simply call him husband. Her cheeks reddened. Then she softly called him Xianggong. That single word touched a part of Lu that years of war had buried. He had awakened in an unfamiliar era with no friends, no comrades, and no family. Suddenly someone was depending on him. Lu decided that no matter how cruel this world became, Sang Yushi would not regret choosing his side. He immediately began crushing garlic and heating the liquor. Yushi watched him prepare the knife over the flame. Her expression became nervous when he approached her injured leg. Lu explained that the wound was infected and would kill her if the rotten tissue remained. Yushi stared at him in disbelief. She had never heard of a hunter treating wounds like a physician. Lu asked whether she trusted him. Yushi remembered how he had claimed her before the entire market. She nodded. Lu warned her that the treatment would hurt badly because he had no anesthetic. She could scream, bite a stick, or curse him if necessary. Yushi bravely agreed. The blade touched her skin. Her courage lasted less than a heartbeat. She grabbed Lu's arm and sank her teeth into him. Lu almost laughed because now both of them were suffering. His hands never slowed. He removed the dead tissue, drained the infection, and cleaned the wound with concentrated alcohol. The moment the liquid touched exposed flesh, Yushi screamed loudly enough to wake half the village. Neighbors immediately misunderstood the noise. Insults flew through the thin walls as people accused the newlyweds of having no shame. Lu and Yushi were too occupied to hear them. When the worst pain passed, Yushi lay trembling in cold sweat. She looked at Lu with the frightened eyes of a cornered deer. Lu told her the cutting was finished. She nearly cried with relief. Then he explained that he still needed to wrap the wound. The only clean cloth Yushi possessed was a fine white silk handkerchief woven by her mother. It had been meant as a private wedding keepsake. Lu examined it, boiled it, and used it as a bandage without recognizing the full meaning. Yushi watched him with equal parts embarrassment and happiness. Next, Lu began extracting medicine from garlic. Penicillin would have been impossible to cultivate safely in the filthy shack. Garlic offered a simpler solution. Lu controlled the temperature, mixed the extract with distilled alcohol, and filtered the crude medicine. Yushi observed every movement with frightening concentration. Whenever the primitive equipment worked, Lu raised 2 fingers in a victory gesture. Yushi had no idea what the sign meant. She still smiled whenever he made it. Lu applied the garlic extract to her wound and ordered her to swallow a small amount. She drank without hesitation. Lu jokingly asked whether she feared he had brewed poison. Yushi replied that poisoners rarely prepared their poison directly in front of the victim. Both laughed. Then the small room became quiet. Their eyes met beneath the weak firelight. They were 2 lonely people trapped at the edge of a broken kingdom. Lu leaned closer. Yushi closed her eyes. Their first kiss was gentle and brief. Lu promised that her leg would recover. Yushi threw her arms around him and asked how she could ever repay his kindness. Lu told her repayment was simple. She only needed to make sure they were not turned into slaves after 1 year. Yushi immediately buried her burning face against his chest. Lu laughed and held her until the cold wind entered through the broken wall. Yushi began shivering violently. The infection had weakened her, and the northern winter showed no mercy. Lu looked around the empty shack and finally understood how little the dead hunter had owned. There were no blankets, no proper bedding, and barely enough millet to survive several days. If Lu wanted to protect his new wife, his first battle in this world would be against hunger itself. Fortunately, the previous owner of his body had left behind a carefully maintained water buffalo horn bow. Lu removed his worn jacket and placed it around Yushi's shoulders. He also left his knife within her reach. Then he announced that he was going hunting. Yushi immediately stopped him. She reached into her clothes and removed a beautiful golden hairpin. It was one of the last valuable objects from her former life. Yushi begged him to pawn it instead of entering Eagle Mountain during the worst part of winter. Snow covered the slopes and wolves or tigers could be waiting beneath the trees. Lu wanted to refuse. Then he saw the determination in her eyes. He accepted the hairpin and quietly apologized for forcing his wife to sacrifice her dowry on their first day. Yushi brushed dust from his clothes. She told him that a husband and wife were supposed to survive together. Her mother would have made the same choice. Lu kissed her again. As he stepped outside, Yushi asked him to return early so they could eat together. Lu promised. The promise followed him through the snow. He carried the hornbow arrow's rope and the burden of feeding 2 people. Eagle Mountain had already been hunted heavily. The original Lu had actually starved because game became too scarce. That knowledge did not discourage the former soldier. Lu hated waiting for supplies to disappear. He preferred controlling the situation before the situation controlled him. On the road outside Quishan village, several women gathered beneath an old tree to gossip. They immediately began asking about his beautiful new wife. One sharp-tongued woman insulted Yushi. Lu stopped walking. He drew his bow and placed an arrow directly between the woman's eyes. The entire group fell silent. Lu warned them that anyone who insulted his wife again would answer to him. Nobody laughed after that. Only Auntie Chun remained calm enough to speak normally. She offered to watch Yushi while Lu hunted. Lu thanked her and continued south. Snow grew deeper as he climbed Eagle Mountain. Ordinary hunters had covered the lower slopes with footprints. Lu immediately moved toward untouched terrain. When the snow began swallowing his boots, he cut hard bark and tied it beneath his feet. The crude snowshoes spread his weight and allowed him to move faster. Alone among the trees, Lu tested the hornbow. It was heavier than the modern bows he remembered. His first shot missed its intended point by several centimeters. Lu considered that unacceptable. He fired again, then again. By the 30th arrow, he could strike a tree at 50 meters with almost no error. Only then did he continue hunting. Lu searched for water because experience taught him that animals eventually had to drink. Deep inside the mountain, he discovered a hot spring. A large elk stood beside the steaming water. To a starving frontier household, that animal was almost a moving treasure chest. Its meat meant food. Its hide meant warmth. Its antlers could be traded. Its blood could help Yushi recover from months of poor nutrition. Lu lowered himself into the snow and vanished between the trees. The elk remained alert for several minutes before drinking. Lu still refused to shoot. He knew the most vulnerable moment often came immediately after an animal satisfied its thirst. The elk finally raised its head. Lu removed one glove. He read the wind. He measured the distance. He drew. The arrow pierced the elk's skull. The animal ran several desperate steps before collapsing into the snow. Lu reached it quickly and ended its suffering. The elk weighed more than he had hoped. There was enough meat to feed his household and still trade the surplus. Lu reached for his arrow. Every instinct developed under enemy fire suddenly screamed. He threw himself sideways. An arrow passed through the space where the back of his skull had been. Lu rolled behind a tree. From the angle of the shot, he calculated the attacker's position almost immediately. The hidden archer tried to move. Deep snow trapped the man's legs. Lu's bark snowshoes gave him the advantage. His arrow struck the attacker in the chest. The man dropped. Lu did not approach. He waited. He fired several more arrows. Then he circled the area and searched for additional enemies. Only after confirming that the forest was clear did he examine the fallen man. The body lay face down. Lu calmly placed another arrow into the man's heart. The supposed corpse suddenly growled. He had been pretending to be dead. His final expression showed disbelief that anyone could be more cautious than he was. Lu rolled him over. Blonde hair, blue eyes, a hooked nose, and crude leather armor revealed the truth. The attacker was a Yuan soldier from across the frontier. Lu knew enemy scouts rarely traveled alone. Somewhere nearby, other riders might be waiting for a signal that would never arrive. If they investigated Quishan village, could become their next target. Lu stripped the dead soldier's armor and collected his saber arrows and sheepskins. Then he drained the elk's blood. He saved some for Yushi and drank enough to warm his own freezing body. The remaining blood went over the Yuan corpse. Wolves would destroy the evidence. Lu hoisted the massive elk onto his back. The walk home became a race against both darkness and possible retaliation. When smoke from Quishan village finally appeared, Lu released a breath he had been holding for miles. Villagers returning from gathering firewood spotted the elk and surrounded him. Many had never seen one hunter bring down such a large animal. Their admiration lasted until greed entered the conversation. Several men suggested Lu should divide the meat and accept repayment later. Lu asked why he should reward people who had done nothing. He told them to hunt their own food. Then he warned everyone that he had encountered a Wan scout in the mountains. Fear briefly entered their eyes. Wu Pong and several others laughed the warning away. They believed trained soldiers could barely survive one Wan warrior. The old Lu had been a quiet hunter who rarely defended himself. To them, the idea that he had killed an enemy scout was ridiculous. A small girl named Huawa ran through the crowd. She was Auntie Chun's granddaughter and barely 10 years old. Huawa had been waiting because her grandmother feared Lu might not return before dark. That simple concern warmed him. Lu promised Huawa roasted elk meat. Her eyes widened as if he had offered gold. She had not eaten meat in several years. Her mother suffered from a constant cough. And Huawa remembered that meat soup once made her feel better. The little girl's first thought was not for herself. She wanted meat for her mother. Lu took the oversized firewood basket from Huawa's back. They had barely moved when Zhangbo blocked the road. Zhangbo was Qishan village's most notorious bully. He and his men demanded a so-called tax from anyone carrying something valuable. Lu ignored them. Zhangbo stepped directly into his path. Lu told him that a village thug had no authority to collect taxes. One of Zhangbo's companions made a filthy comment about Yushi. Lu slapped him. The man flew several meters and crashed into the ground. Silence swallowed the village. Nobody had ever seen the old Lu fight. Zhangbo suddenly understood that the hunter standing before him was no longer an easy victim. Villagers began cheering. Lu walked toward the remaining bullies. Then rapid hoofbeats cut through the noise. Every face in the village changed. Wuan cavalry charged toward the entrance. Curved blades flashed beneath the winter light. Someone screamed for everyone to run. Panic exploded. An arrow struck the ground near Zhangbo. The bully crawled away without a trace of his earlier arrogance. Lu grabbed Huawa and pulled her away from another arrow. He ordered her to find Auntie Chun and warn Yushi. The little girl ran. Lu dropped the elk and everything else that could slow him. He moved behind a large elm tree and drew his bow. His first arrow targeted the lead rider's forehead. The Wan warrior sensed danger and shifted his head. The arrow missed the skull but tore through the man's ear. Blood covered the rider's face. He immediately recognized Lu as the man who had killed their missing scout. The Wan leader ordered every person in the village slaughtered. The riders fired into fleeing civilians. An old woman who made straw sandals fell with an arrow through her back. Lu saw the life disappear from her eyes. Then a small sound behind him made his blood turn cold. Zhangbo had grabbed Huawa. The coward held the little girl against his back as a human shield. An enemy arrow had already passed through Huawa's chest. Lu's vision darkened with rage. There was no time to save her yet. The cavalry was almost on top of him. Lu drew the horn bow to its limit. His arrow smashed through a rider's forehead. The dead man fell from the saddle with his eyes still open. Lu fired again. Two Wuan warriors reached him at close range. One sword descended toward his skull. Lu rolled forward. During the movement, his hand found the saber taken from the mountain scout. The first rider believed the fight was already over. Lu's blade cut through his arm. Even after losing the limb, the Wan soldier attacked with his remaining fist. Lu respected the man's ferocity. He still opened his throat without hesitation. The exchange lasted only several heartbeats. The final rider had already entered the village and begun cutting down civilians. Lu mounted a captured horse and pursued him. Xiaoyang's mother lay dead in the road. Xiaoyang grabbed a farming hoe and charged the rider in blind grief. The Wan soldier casually avoided the clumsy attack. His sword moved toward Xiaoyang. Lu's arrow struck the blade and knocked it aside. The enemy recognized the captured horse. He realized Lu had also killed their missing brother. The Wan soldier demanded an honorable duel. Lu shot him through the chest before the challenge was finished. The dying warrior cursed him for using an ambush. Lu asked where that honor had been when unarmed villagers were being murdered. Men who butchered civilians had no right to demand fairness. Lu turned toward Xiaoyang. He told the grieving man to finish his mother's killer. Xiaoyang approached. Then fear stopped his feet. Years of defeat had taught frontier people to see the Wuan as monsters instead of men. Lu understood the damage. He also understood that nobody could repair Xiaoyang's courage for him. Lu cut off the rider's head himself. The battle was over. Then he heard Yushi calling for him. She came limping through the village despite her injured leg. Dust covered her clothes. She collapsed before reaching him. Lu caught her. Yushi's first question was whether the Wuan were dead. Lu assured her the enemies were gone. Then his eyes searched for Zhangbo. The man who had used Huawa as a shield still lived somewhere nearby. Lu wanted his head. But wounded villagers were crying from every direction. Revenge had to wait. Lu found Hua in her mother's arms. Auntie Chun knelt beside them with tears covering her face. Hua was pale. Blood soaked the small body. The little girl recognized Lu. She asked whether he could give meat to her mother and grandmother if she died. Her mother broke down. Even hardened frontier villagers turned their faces away. Lu told Hua that everyone would eat together that night. She gave him a faint smile. The arrow had passed through her chest. By extraordinary luck, it had missed the major organs. Blood loss was the true danger. Lu heated his knife and ordered Hua's mother to hold her steady. The woman had already surrendered hope. City physicians could rarely save wounds like this. Lu refused to accept that answer. He cut away the arrowhead. Then he pulled the shaft out in one fast movement. Hua immediately lost consciousness. Lu demanded boiled cloth. Auntie Chun brought hot water. Lu plunged his hand into the pot without caring about the burn. He wrapped Hua's chest tightly. Yushi arrived carrying the garlic medicine. Lu forced a small amount between Hua's lips. After that, there was nothing more he could do. Her life rested on whether the tiny body could survive the night. Lu's face became terrifyingly calm. He hated the Wan. At that moment, he hated Zhangbo even more. Enemy soldiers were exactly what they claimed to be. Zhangbo had sacrificed a child from his own village to save himself. Families of other wounded villagers began kneeling around Lu. They begged him to save wives, mothers, brothers, and children. Several apologized for mocking him earlier. Lu did not care about their insults anymore. Petty words were not the same as Zhangbo's betrayal. He ordered Yushi to organize people and butcher the elk. Fires were lit. Water was boiled. Meat began cooking. Lu moved from one wounded person to another. He removed arrows, cleaned cuts, stopped bleeding, and taught families how to change bandages. For the first time, anyone remembered Kishan village moved with discipline during a disaster. Then more hoofbeats came from the darkness. Terror returned instantly. Lu put down the man he was treating. He shouted for every man with courage to grab a weapon. Nobody moved at first. Then Xiaoyang stepped forward. Shame and grief covered his face. His mother was dead. This time he wanted revenge. Several other men joined him. They were thin, hungry, and visibly shaking. Lu accepted them anyway. Courage did not require the absence of fear. It required moving while fear was still present. Lu led 5 villagers to the entrance and prepared an ambush. Around a dozen riders approached. Lu aimed into the torchlight. A voice suddenly identified the group as soldiers from the Wuan garrison. Lu did not lower his bow until he clearly saw their banner. His men released breaths of relief. Lu did not. He remembered how feudal armies and corrupt officers behaved. The soldiers immediately demanded that every villager kneel. Lu stopped his men from dropping. He claimed his knee had been injured while killing Wuan cavalry. A familiar officer rode forward. Zhao Yang was Commander Zhao Taishan's spoiled son. Lu had already confronted him once for harassing village women. Zhao Yang looked at the Wuan corpses and refused to believe peasants had killed them. Lu mocked the officer's heavy body and slow arrival. Zhao Yang's face darkened. Everyone knew he had received rank because of his father. Lu openly questioned whether the man could even draw a proper bow. The soldiers hated the insult. Some secretly agreed. Wu Peng and the others dragged 3 enemy corpses into view. Experienced soldiers immediately recognized the significance. Wuan cavalry in leather armor were feared across the frontier. Regular troops might sacrifice dozens of men to kill a single rider. Zhao Yang slowly dismounted. His disbelief turned into greed. He announced that he and his soldiers had actually killed the Wuan warriors. Yushi understood the scheme immediately. Zhao Yang planned to steal Lu's military merit. She leaned close to her husband. Instead of telling him to surrender, Yushi quietly advised him to strike hard and end things quickly. Lu looked at her with new appreciation. His gentle wife possessed sharper political instincts than most officers. Zhao Yang ordered armed soldiers to surround Lu. The villagers hesitated. Zhao Yang and several men refused to retreat. Standing against Wuan riders had required courage. Standing against imperial soldiers could cost their entire families. They stayed anyway. Lu remembered that loyalty. He openly accused Zhao Yang of stealing merit because of an old grudge. Zhao Yang smiled. He asked who had actually witnessed Lu killing the enemies. His own soldiers were forced to support the lie. Lu smiled back. Then he moved. Zhao Yang knew Lu had killed Wuan cavalry at close range. The fool still allowed him within arm's reach. Before the surrounding soldiers could react, Lu's dagger touched Zhao Yang's throat. The officer immediately began trembling. He had worn military clothing for years. He had never felt a hostile blade against his skin. Lu drew a thin line of blood beneath his chin. Zhao Yang ordered his soldiers to drop their weapons. They refused. Commander Zhao had personally taught them that a soldier should never abandon his weapon. One veteran even advised the young master to endure a little longer. Lu nearly laughed. Zhao Yang almost cried. The trapped officer promised to report the military merit honestly. Lu said trust had already disappeared. A powerful voice came from behind the crowd. Commander Zhao Taishan asked whether Lu would trust him instead. More than 100 soldiers arrived behind the commander. Zhao Yang immediately screamed for his father to save him. Zhao Taishan walked through the crowd. He examined the corpses. Then he praised Lu loudly enough for everyone to hear. Lu remained cautious. A pleasant sentence could hide a knife. Zhao Taishan slowly guided the dagger away from his son's throat. Lu allowed it. Behind him, several villagers became nervous. Yushi told them to trust her husband's judgment. Her composure silenced everyone. Old soldiers expected Zhao Taishan to execute Lu immediately. Instead, the commander turned around. He slapped his own son so hard that Zhao Yang flew into the dirt. The village became completely silent. Zhao Taishan roared about dying soldiers and a collapsing border. He accused his son of disgracing the army by stealing credit from a real fighter. Then he began kicking Zhao Yang before the entire garrison. Lu watched carefully. He soon noticed the commander secretly looking in his direction. The beating was theater. Zhao Taishan wanted Lu to step forward and play the gracious hero. Lu decided to enjoy the performance. He stood quietly. The commander kept kicking. Zhao Yang kept screaming. Zhao Taishan's strikes carefully avoided dangerous areas. Eventually, even the commander became tired. Lu finally grabbed his arm and asked him to stop. Relief flashed across Zhao Taishan's face. The commander continued pretending to be furious. Lu leaned closer and whispered that if the acting continued, he might stop interfering. Zhao Taishan immediately developed a miraculous coughing fit. Lu helped him sit. Both men understood the unspoken agreement. Lu would let Zhao Yang live. Zhao Yang would never receive another free chance to cross him. Zhao Taishan then offered Lu a place in the army. Lu accepted without hesitation. Military service was the fastest path to organized power in this world. Fighting was also the profession Lu understood better than anything else. For killing armored Yuan cavalry, he received silver and promotion to squad leader. 10 soldiers could now serve directly beneath him. He was ordered to defend Quishan and neighboring Songhan village. In spring, he would join the front lines. The rank was low. Lu saw a road opening. Enemy kills produced military merit. Military merit produced rank. Rank produced men and resources. Lu intended to use every part of that system. Zhao Taishan also explained the signal fires connecting frontier villages. If one settlement was attacked, nearby soldiers were expected to reinforce it. Future enemy heads could be exchanged for merit at the garrison. Lu accepted the wooden badge of his new rank. When he turned around, the villagers knelt. They saluted their new squad leader. Lu looked across their exhausted faces. Promotion did not make him safe. The Yuan would retaliate for their dead. Zhao Taishan also had reasons to resent him. Lu was not afraid. 2 lives had taught him that power was rarely handed to anyone. Most of the time it had to be taken. Before building anything larger, Lu needed to establish order in his own village. He asked where Zhangbo had gone. A young woman finally admitted that she had hidden the bully inside a well. Lu ordered Wu Peng and Xiao Yang to bring him out. Zhangbo returned still shouting. The noise vanished when he saw Lu wearing a military badge. Xiao Yang kicked him to his knees. Lu accused him of using Huawa as a shield. Zhangbo claimed he had only been carrying the child to safety. Then he blamed Huawa's injury on bad luck. Auntie Chun screamed at him. Zhangbo shoved the grieving grandmother aside. Years of bullying had made cruelty automatic for him. He even threatened Huawa's family before remembering Lu was watching. Zhangbo immediately changed his expression. He offered wine. He offered service. He offered friendship. Lu smiled and said the wine sounded excellent. Zhangbo relaxed. The surrounding villagers stared at Lu in disappointment. They believed another honest man had become corrupt after receiving rank. Zhangbo began standing. Lu's saber flashed. The bully's head left his shoulders. His body remained upright for one brief moment before collapsing. Lu addressed the entire village. Anyone who betrayed his own people would receive the same judgment. Fear spread through the crowd. Lu wanted that fear. Soft leadership meant nothing if predators believed there were no consequences. Then he ordered the elk meat distributed. Even grieving families returned with bowls. Death was painfully common on the frontier. People had learned to cry and continue living at the same time. That evening, Lu finally returned home. Yushi had prepared deer stew. She gently wiped enemy blood from his face. Lu ate like a starving wolf. A thin woman named Yi Xinger arrived carrying wine. She had been the wife assigned to Zhangbo that same morning. With Zhangbo dead, Xinger had no land, money, or family nearby. She asked Lu to accept her as a concubine. Lu immediately looked at Yushi. His wife was watching him with frightening concentration. Lu declined. Instead, he offered Shinger food and a place in the household if she helped care for Yushi. Shinger accepted. Yushi welcomed her gently. The two women recognized traces of educated families in each other's behavior. Both had been dragged to the frontier by political punishment. After Shinger left, Yushi asked why Lu had refused a beautiful concubine. Lu said Yushi had already suffered enough. He wanted his wife to have one stable thing in her life. Yushi began crying. Lu told her she was the only person in this world he completely trusted. Later, Yushi mentioned that her mother had hired an extraordinary seamstress to train her. Lu heard the hidden invitation in those words. He closed the door. Yushi finally revealed her true identity. Her father had been one of Du's 8 pillar generals. He had once held the empire's highest military authority. Emperor Shundi ordered his execution. Yushi's mother died. Her 3 brothers died. 28 members of the Sang family were destroyed. Yushi expected Lu to recoil. Instead, his eyes became cold. He told her that the emperor had become his enemy the moment he murdered her family. One day, Lu intended to march into the capital and take Shundi's head. Yushi accidentally pricked her finger with the sewing needle. She stared at him. Lu was not comforting her with empty promises. He meant every word. Yushi wrapped her arms around his back and cried. For years, nobody had dared say the Sang family's deaths were unjust. Lu told her that her enemies were now his enemies. He also believed any emperor who allowed the frontier to rot deserved to be replaced. The declaration frightened Yushi. It also made her fall even deeper. That night, she asked Lu to become her husband in more than imperial law. Lu suggested they first bow to heaven and earth. In his previous life, he had mocked ceremonies. Death had changed his opinion about memories. Important moments deserved anchors. This was his first wedding in 2 lifetimes. Beneath the moon, Sang Yushi vowed never to abandon Lu. She called heaven and earth to witness her promise. Lu listened solemnly. When his turn came, he simply said he promised the same thing. Yushi burst out laughing and ordered him to take the ceremony seriously. Lu knocked his forehead against the floor 3 times. He promised their dead parents that he would protect Yushi. Simple words were enough. Yushi knew Lu was not a man of beautiful speeches. His honesty made her feel safer than poetry ever could. That night, the 2 lonely people finally became a true married couple. Lu woke before dawn. Yushi remained asleep beside him. He kissed her forehead and quietly went outside to train. Rain, exhaustion, hunger, and injury had never been accepted excuses in his previous unit. He began practicing Black Dragon 18 Fists. The combat style had been secretly taught to him by an old commander. Its movements were violent, practical, and designed to destroy opponents quickly. Yushi watched from the doorway. She compared the technique to styles practiced by imperial generals. Then she noticed a serious weakness. Lu's external combat training was extraordinary. He had never cultivated internal breathing. Yushi explained that constant external training slowly damaged joints and bones. A young warrior might feel invincible. Age would eventually collect the debt. The Sang family possessed a breathing method designed to protect the body from that damage. Yushi demonstrated a strange standing posture. Lu trusted her and copied it. After only a short time, sweat poured down his face. Black Dragon 18 Fists barely warmed him. The simple stance made every muscle scream. Lu immediately recognized genuine value. He forced himself to complete the session. Yushi watched with tears in her eyes. Her brothers had once complained while their father forced them to practice the same method. Now every one of them was dead. Lu's stubborn figure brought those memories back. When he finally released the stance, his entire body trembled. Yushi was astonished by his progress. Her brothers had needed several days to produce the same physical reaction. Lu had done it during his first serious attempt. For the first time, Yushi wondered whether her husband was a true martial genius. Her impossible dream of avenging the Sang family suddenly felt slightly less impossible. Shinger arrived and complained that the newlyweds had cooked without her. During breakfast, Yushi announced that she wanted to produce more garlic medicine. Lu asked whether she remembered the process. Yushi repeated every step. She remembered the temperature. She remembered the timing. She had even counted her pulse while watching Lu to measure how long each stage lasted. Lu stared at his wife. She had learned the entire procedure after seeing it once. He kissed her cheek and called her incredible. Shinger turned bright red at the open affection. Lu realized Yushi was not merely educated. Her ability to observe and reproduce technical processes was frightening. He promised to explain the science behind the medicine later. Yushi immediately wanted to know why temperature changed the extraction. Lu silently wondered whether he had married an ancient engineering prodigy. After breakfast, he gathered his growing group of men. Wu Pong stayed behind to watch Quishan. Lu took Xiao Yang and the young Lu brothers toward Songhan village. The brothers were too inexperienced to ride. Lu made them run beside his horse. 3 miles of winter road became their first military exercise. Quishan villagers greeted Lu warmly as he passed. Some offered bread, others offered water. Xiaoyang could barely believe the change. Only days earlier, neighbors had fought over scraps. Now people willingly shared food with the man who had protected them. Respect had begun replacing suspicion. At Songhan's entrance, several local thugs mocked Lu's small group. Their leader Su Fei especially enjoyed insulting Lu Yang and Lu Hu. He called the orphaned brothers beggars. Lu Yang's expression turned dark. The brothers had worked for every meal since childhood. Being insulted by a thief cut deeply. Lu displayed his squad leader badge. Su Fei still refused his order to gather the village. Lu Yang drew his saber and placed it against Su Fei's throat. The thug immediately slapped himself and apologized. A new voice interrupted them. An armed officer named Li Da approached with several soldiers. He claimed authority over Songhan. Lu immediately understood Zhao Taishan's game. The commander had assigned Songhan to Lu. Now Li Da had arrived with supposed transfer orders. The document looked ridiculous. Zhao Taishan's people had assumed Lu was an illiterate hunter. Lu tore the fake order apart. He loudly accused Li Da of carrying a forged military document. The accusation reversed the situation before Li Da could react. Li Da drew his sword. Lu's dagger reached his throat first. Then Lu asked where Li Da had been during the Wan attack on Quishan. Li Da claimed he had been too far away. Songhan villagers laughed bitterly. A ragged teenager named Na Yun stepped forward. Na Yun said Li Da always disappeared before Wan raids. His father had once served under the officer. The man killed an enemy soldier and died. Li Da stole the military credit. That stolen achievement became the foundation of his rank. Na Yun also accused Li Da of taking villagers' wives and using local thugs to terrorize families. During raids, Li Da blocked villagers from escaping while protecting his own retreat. The entire village knelt behind Na Yun. They begged Lu for justice. Li Da threatened to report them all as rebels. Lu looked at the terrified villagers. Then he looked at the officer who had used a military badge to prey on them. Lu said the empire gave soldiers authority to protect people. Men like Li Da had turned that authority into a weapon. His blade moved. Li Da's throat opened. The villagers exploded. Years of stolen wives, dead relatives, beatings, and humiliation erupted at once. They dragged Li Da down. Lu did not stop them. Na Yun remained on one knee. Tears ran down the young man's face. He said his real enemy was still the Wan who had killed his father. Na Yun begged to become Lu's soldier. Lu accepted him. Li Da's surviving men dropped their weapons and claimed they had only followed orders. Lu rejected the excuse. They had accepted the benefits of Li Da's crimes. The villagers dealt with them. Su Fei was also executed. Songhan had changed leadership in less than an hour. Lu immediately recruited workers to fortify Oxmang Pass. Adult men would receive millet every day. Women and older children could also work for smaller portions. The wages were better than heavy labor inside Wuhan City. Desperate villagers volunteered faster than Lu could count them. He warned everyone that slacking would cost the entire group its pay. The grain came from his own pocket. In return, the defenses would protect both villages. 50 workers marched toward Oxmang Pass carrying shovels, axes, and farming tools. Lu ordered deep trenches across cavalry approaches. Sharpened wooden stakes would fill the bottoms. Grass and snow would hide the traps. The plan targeted the Wan's greatest strength. Their cavalry depended on speed. A horse running at full force could not suddenly stop above a concealed pit. Lu returned to Wan City and purchased thousands of pounds of grain. He deliberately transported the food openly. Wealth moving through dangerous roads always attracted predators. Lu needed weapons and expected bandits to bring their own. His prediction proved correct. Masked men blocked the road. Their leader began a traditional bandit speech. Lu laughed and told him to skip directly to the fighting. The villagers traveling with Lu sat on the grain carts. They looked more entertained than afraid. They had watched their squad leader kill Wan cavalry. Highway thieves did not impress them. The bandits became uneasy. Lu checked the surrounding terrain for hidden attackers. Then he drew his sword and approached. He ordered the robbers to drop their weapons and surrender their valuables. For several seconds, the bandits thought they had heard him incorrectly. Their leader attacked. Lu killed him in several movements. The others immediately tried to flee. Lu shot the fastest runner. Nobody moved after that. He questioned them one at a time about their mountain base. Once an answer was given, Lu asked another captive to confirm it. The interrogation convinced them that lying was useless. One surviving bandit led Lu toward the hideout. Several shacks stood in a mountain clearing. The messenger attempted to lure the others outside. The second in command recognized the trap. He killed his own messenger and ordered everyone to grab the valuables. The bandits pulled a chest from beneath the floor. Silver filled the box. Lu entered while they were distracted. The room became a slaughterhouse. Only the second-in-command remained alive. Lu demanded to know where government silver had come from. The man first claimed it was stolen. Lu knew ordinary mountain thieves could never raid an imperial convoy carrying that amount. The truth finally emerged. The bandits traded salt and iron to the yuan. Lu felt colder than the winter outside. Enemy weapons had always looked unusually sharp. Now he understood why. Someone inside Du was supplying the people slaughtering frontier villages. Lu demanded the name of their protector. The answer was Commander Zhao Taishan. Lu forced the prisoner to repeat it. The bandit claimed his entire group consisted of Zhao family servants. They moved smuggled goods according to a fixed schedule. Zhao Taishan collected the profits. A Zhao household token proved the connection. Beneath its ordinary surface was solid gold. A frontier commander should never have possessed such wealth. Lu realized the conspiracy probably reached above Zhao Taishan. One man could not secretly move iron and salt across a militarized border alone. The prisoner offered Lu a partnership. Lu pretended to consider it. Then he stabbed the traitor through the throat. More than 200 taels of silver remained in the chest. It was enough to feed workers and begin building a serious fighting force. Lu decided the money had become military funds. He rewarded the villagers who had followed him with grain. Fear could force obedience. Fair rewards created loyalty. While searching the remaining huts, Lu found a locked building behind the hill. A terrible smell came through the door. Inside were more than a dozen kidnapped women. Disease covered their bodies. Months of abuse had destroyed them. They crawled toward Lu and begged him to take them away. One dying girl asked for a final favor. If Lu ever reached her home village, she wanted her family told that she had married far away. She did not want her parents to learn how her life had ended. Lu promised. The girl smiled. Then she died. The remaining women gave Lu a cloth containing their names. They asked for the same lie. Finally, they asked not to die slowly from their diseases. Lu could defeat soldiers. He could cut arrows from bodies. He could make crude medicine. He could not save these women with the knowledge or tools available in this era. Whiting and several villagers offered to grant their final request. Lu walked to the cliff. He heard the sounds behind him. His hand crushed the cloth containing the women's names. Lu screamed into the mountain that he would make the responsible men pay. On the journey home, nobody asked him to explain what had happened. Yushi saw his expression and immediately knew something was wrong. Lu told her about the smuggling operation. He also told her about Zhao Taishan. Yushi's hands shook with anger. Her father had once supported a crown prince who wanted to clean corruption from the northern army. Emperor Shundi had taken the throne instead. Yushi believed the rotten border was connected to the same political struggle that destroyed her family. She asked what Lu intended to do. Lu said the army was useless and the emperor was rotten. He would replace both. Even the daughter of a grand general was stunned by the ambition in his voice. Yushi still promised to stand beside him. She also warned him not to attack Zhao Taishan yet. Lu had fewer than 10 trained men. The commander controlled soldiers, officials, money, and smuggling networks. Open conflict would be suicide, Lu agreed. They would climb through military merit first. The work for grain program would feed villagers and build loyalty. Defenses would turn yuan attacks into opportunities. Every enemy head would finance the next stage. The strategy began working sooner than expected. At Oxmang Pass, Na Yun studied Lu's trench designs and improved them. He suggested making the stake pits deeper. Thin spikes could reach areas chainmail failed to protect. Any survivor without a horse would have to crawl through wolf territory. Lu praised him. Na Yun immediately tried to dismiss his own idea. Nobody had ever encouraged the boy's military instincts. Lu told him to build exactly what he had described. Na Yun's eyes lit up. Workers nearby listened while Lu spoke about the Wuan. He reminded them of murdered mothers and children. The Wan were cruel. That did not make them gods. Frontier people had fists, teeth, tools, and years of buried hatred. Lu promised that every attack would be repaid many times over. 100 workers raised shovels and hoes. Their shouting shook the hillside. The people who once ran at the sound of hooves were finally remembering that they could fight. Lu turned Oxmang Pass into more than a defensive line. In his mind, it was a farm for military merit. Wuan cavalry would enter through the narrow route. Concealed trenches would break their charge. Lu's men would finish any survivors. Enemy heads would become silver and promotions. Silver would become grain weapons and soldiers. Over the following weeks, Lu mapped every road and hill within dozens of miles. Trenches deepened. Stakes filled the pits. Guard shacks appeared along the approach. Workers received real grain twice every day. Nobody mixed the food with sand. Nobody stole part of their wages. For starving frontier families, Lu's construction camp felt almost unreal. When the fortifications were completed, workers became anxious. They feared the food would disappear with the job. Lu gathered everyone. He announced that only a handful of permanent soldiers would remain at the pass. Faces fell. Then Lu told the rest they were not going home. Their pay would continue. The hillside exploded with cheers. Half the workers were assigned to cut timber. The others began building a road between Quishan and Songhan. Many villagers did not understand why a flat road mattered. The sharper men immediately saw how much faster carts could move food and weapons. Lu had already started thinking about logistics instead of individual battles. An army that could not move supplies would eventually collapse. Meanwhile, grain reserves fell rapidly. Lu Yang warned that only several days of food remained. Lu looked toward the trenches. He said someone would soon deliver more silver. Lu Yang did not understand. Lu had studied the pattern of Wan raids. Winter was becoming harsher. Hunger on the northern steppe had to be worse than hunger inside Du. Nearby villages had all been attacked. Quishan and Songhan alone had remained quiet. The Wan remembered losing men there. Their silence was not forgiveness. It meant the next force would probably be larger. Lu prepared for exactly that. He constructed a training yard using knowledge from his previous life. Pull-up bars, parallel bars, running lanes, and an archery range confused the villagers. Lu asked who wanted to become a soldier. Nobody wanted the regular imperial army. Almost everyone wanted to fight under Lu. He created a brutal test. Recruits had to sprint, perform pull-ups, complete push-ups, spin repeatedly, then shoot a target. Lu demonstrated first. His arrow struck the center. The watching men became silent. Lu announced a grain reward for anyone who passed. Hands immediately filled the air. A huge, dark-faced man named He Niu went first. He struggled but completed the test. About 1/5 of the candidates passed. Lu rejected the rest without insulting them. They could train freely and earn food through patrol or night watch. Soon Lu commanded 27 men. Lu Yang led the first squad. Na Yun led the second. Sun Ming led the third. The Sun brothers had entered Lu's command after a far more dangerous battle. A large Wan force had attacked the workers before the defenses were completely ready. Lu fought mounted enemies on foot. 3 riders surrounded him. He rolled beneath a horse and cut through its front legs. The falling rider died before touching the ground. Lu split another warrior's weapon and skull in the same movement. The remaining cavalry dismounted and attacked together. Their strongest warrior wore chainmail and carried a massive battle axe. The giant laughed because villagers were already running. Lu remained alone. Then Na Yun shouted at the fleeing men. He demanded to know how they could abandon the squad leader fighting for their families. Na Yun, Lu Yang, and Lu Hu climbed from the trench. They were bleeding. Together they had killed a Wan rider. Their eyes no longer belonged to frightened boys. They promised to fight beside Lu. Lu laughed and welcomed them. The chainmailed warrior swung his axe like a moving wall of iron. Lu could not block that strength directly. He watched the rotations. On the 6th swing, exhaustion created a tiny weakness. Lu kicked the axe from the warrior's grip. The Wan fighter produced iron chains instead. He challenged Lu to face him alone. Lu entered the chain's reach. His footwork constantly changed direction. The larger man could not track him. One chain caught Lu's sword. The giant threw a crushing punch. Lu released his weapon. He trapped the man's wrist. A sweep destroyed the warrior's balance. Lu drove him into the ground. Then Lu locked both arms around his neck. The Wan warrior thrashed hard enough to throw dust into the air. Lu refused to release the choke. The giant eventually stopped moving. Lu still did not let go. His own men had to pull his arms apart. Lu collapsed. Days of combat had pushed his malnourished new body beyond its limit. When his eyes opened, Lu Yang, Lu Hu, and Na Yun were standing over him. All 3 were crying. Lu praised them for fighting. Lu Hu cried even harder because Lu had nearly died and still thought first about his men. Lu promised compensation to families who lost relatives in the attack. The villagers stared at him in disbelief. No frontier officer had ever paid families because the Wan killed someone. Lu knew every grain spent on trust was more valuable than silver locked inside a chest. He personally carried 9 Wuan heads to Wan City. Gate Captain Zhao Tong tried to block him. Zhao Tong was another relative of Zhao Taishan. He claimed the enemy heads were fake. Lu rode directly toward the guards. His blood-covered appearance convinced them to move. Instead of reporting to Zhao Taishan, Lu went to the commandant's residence. Deputy Commander Cloud Ao examined the heads. He refused to believe one man had killed so many cavalry soldiers. Cloud Ao ordered the garrison's martial champion to test Lu. The champion carried a spear. Lu was given no weapon. Lu accused the officers of attacking their own hero instead of killing Yuan soldiers themselves. The champion attacked anyway. Lu dodged several strikes. A heavy blow forced him to block with his arms. Lu rolled toward a guard and took the man's saber. His patience broke. If the military refused to honor merit, Lu saw no reason to remain obedient. He charged directly at Cloud Ao. An arrow struck Lu's blade. Commandant Cloud Tian entered the yard. Every soldier immediately knelt. Cloud Tian walked to his son Cloud Ao. He stabbed the young officer in the thigh. Then he broke his leg. Lu realized this punishment was not theater. Cloud Tian accused his son of destroying the army's willingness to fight. If heroes were cheated after killing enemies, no soldier would ever risk his life for the garrison. Cloud Ao lost his rank and was permanently expelled from Wuhan. Zhao Yang arrived to interfere and immediately discovered he had chosen the worst possible moment. Cloud Tian stripped Zhao Yang of military authority and placed him under house arrest. Then the commandant promoted Lu to corporal. Lu received equipment horses, silver, and authority over more soldiers. Sun Ming and Sun Quang were assigned beneath him. Lu immediately recognized them as Cloud Tian's eyes. The brothers had just cut off their own fingers after failing to stop Cloud Ao's abuse. Lu personally bandaged their wounds. He gave them medicine. Then he placed them beside the village storehouse containing grain weapons and armor. Sun Quang finally admitted that the brothers had been sent to watch him. Lu said he already knew. He told them that soldiers serving beneath him would be treated as brothers until they proved otherwise. The brothers had spent years obeying officers through fear. Lu was the first commander who treated them like human beings. Their loyalty began changing. Under Lu, trenches, training roads, and hidden stake pits finally turned the two starving villages into a real defensive network. 4 Wuan riders soon charged straight into those concealed pits and died without a single villager being wounded. But when Sun Ming and Sun Quang returned from collecting the bounty, arrows were buried in their backs, and every reward had been stolen. The dead villagers' stolen grain and blood covering his brothers proved one brutal truth: Lu's enemies had finally struck back.